All right, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us at the Synthetic Media Challenge demo. I'm Erica, the Director of Partnerships and New Initiatives, and I'm joined by my colleague, Lauren Lumbra, our Program Assistant and current NYU grad student. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Erica.
All right, let's jump in and get started. Earlier this year, the NYC Media Lab partnered with Chanel to launch a prototyping challenge program for teams of graduate students to explore applications of synthetic media and machine-generated content.
The teams explored how emerging synthetic media production might impact the future of storytelling, giving form and expression to early-stage concepts. 3 of those teams will present their final projects today, which showcase interactive AR filters, OpenAI's clip interface, and a GANs video editing tool.
We had an incredible cohort of graduate student teams from not only NYU, Parsons, Columbia, Cornell Tech, and Harvard. So thank you to all the teams that participated. After we hear from each team, we'll open it up to Q&A, feedback, and comments from all of you. So please feel free to use the text box to the bottom right. All right, so let's begin with our first team presentation, Irene and Victor from Bigotis Fabra. The pace of advancement in artificial intelligence is unprecedented. Without programming knowledge, it is hard to access these tools. Bigotis is the first step towards a future where creators and AI systems collaborate to create synthetic media in new ways. Irene and Victor, take it away.
Hello, everyone. First of all, we're so happy to be here. We are Irene and Victor, and we want to present what we have been working during this challenge with the University Lab and Chanel. So let's get started. So as Erica said, the pace of advancement in artificial intelligence is unprecedented. With every breakthrough, new creative capabilities are unleashed. That means that every new model allows us to do new things with it. The thing is that we see that there's a problem. There's like right now a problem in this field. The problem has to do with programming, the artists, designers, and the technology. The thing is that without programming, without the programming knowledge, artists and designers cannot access this technology and hence cannot use it. And the thing is that creators are as important as programmers in order to unveil the other capabilities of artificial intelligence. And what do we mean with that? With that, we mean that artificial intelligence models are like a black box. We can teach these systems, but we don't really know, we don't really understand what they have really learned. So because of this black box nature of artificial intelligence, we need interactive environments where creators and actually everyone can explore this knowledge and can not only explore, but can also hack. That means that they can find new things that we didn't know that we can actually use with these trained models. And that, of course, can create, that we can use these models in order to create in new ways and to create new things. So yeah, with the new tools. So what we have done during this challenge, we have created Bigotis. So Bigotis, just at the super high level, it's this box that, given a prompt, is able to provide you with a generated image that it's representing the content of this prompt. The technology behind this tool, it's a generative model and CLIP. And CLIP is a contrastive learning algorithm that it's able to understand. It's able to give you a similarity metric between an image and a prompt. That means it's able to tell you how similar is an image and a prompt. And the thing is that with this similarity metric, we can guide generative models in order to generate things that resemble a lot any prompt that we want. This is more or less how the interface ended up looking. We were able to select among multiple generative algorithms that generated different kinds of images. We were able to put prompts like penguins wearing Chanel, and to select some parameters of the model, like the number of iterations. So prompt engineering. Prompt engineering was something that englobes what we have been talking about, that is like how creators can really hack these models and how everybody and every of you that right now are listening how any of you could really like do interesting stuff without knowing how to program and without even knowing how this model works. So since this was a storytelling challenge, we can think about which story do we want these penguins to explain us. So if we can represent that story as a prompt, and for example, with this tool, given this prompt, penguins wearing Chanel, we are able to generate these kind of images. Only with this prompt, only knowing what we want to create, this interface it allow us to visualize our thoughts in some way, allow us to really represent any prompt that we want, any idea that we want. So where does it come, the prompt engineering? Prompt engineering comes on finding the right prompts for making this model to generate cool stuff or to generate the things that you really want. And that means if to this prompt, penguins wearing Chanel, we add 4K, training on our station, HDR, we can tune the final generation of the image and give it the style that we really want. So we can create like a ton, like lots of prompts. We can really engineer how we set these prompts into this model in order to create amazing things. And that's why we say that this is the first step in order to this future where we will be able to collaborate in amazing ways with artificial intelligence. This is like the first step and how we show that this is possible. Like, for example, here we even added like some style. Here is in the style of Salvador Dali, and maybe it's not the best one, but here with the Escher, we really got these stairs and we really got these cool geometries that the artificial intelligence is able to collaborate with us, or we are able to collaborate with the artificial intelligence to create what is in our thoughts and to make our ideas visual. Finally, this was just like some penguins, crazy images just trending on our station. And another cool thing that we were able to do, and this was just like an extra feature that we added, is that we can make these images to go alive and to really generative models provide like all of these extra features that allow you to play with what is called the latent space. And playing with this latent space provides a whole another set of features that creators and designers also should have the accessibility and will benefit a lot from using them. So finally, we got some good news for any creator that is listening to us. We have kept working on Bigotis, and we have generated something else. Well, I mean, we are building something else that is called Geniverse. So the cool thing, this is what we have used in order to generate everything that we have showed. We have done it with this new tool. And the thing is that with Geniverse, we have improved the interaction between us and the artificial intelligence. And we have also added some new models and some new features that work way better than the thing that we have done before. And judge if any of you is interested on these ideas that I've been talking about, or is interested on creating the kind of images that you have seen, or even if you're interested on what I'm talking about, just get in touch, because we're looking for feedback and we are looking for people interested in this topic and for new designers and new creators to start really hacking with this model. And yeah, that's all. Just like stay tuned and yeah, let's just stay in touch. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Team Bigotis. Let's open it up to some questions and feedback. Let's see if we've got a couple questions. Oh, we have a request for your Twitter handles. So maybe
let's share. Yeah. Let me share the screen again.
All right, so I've got some questions for us. So, you're using a pretty cutting edge tool, OpenAI's Clip. It's multimodal. It's really, it's really combining unique sorts of models and tools to bridge, right, words and images. What were some surprising outcomes that you weren't expecting that you came across over the course of developing your prototype?
Mm-hmm. So some interesting things that were not expected to appear while we were generating this. I think that these prompts, I mean, the conditioning of trending on ArtStation or trending on OpenSea, like using all of these galleries in order to make our images better, were like amazing, because we spent weeks trying to make this model better, trying to play with the parameters of these models and trying to make the whole thing better, like programming. And then we realized that if we added like some things like render with Unity or trending on ArtStation, like these kind of things that I showed, everything was improving dramatically. So that was really interesting to see how programming was not that important as being creative and as being able to really engineer these prompts. I guess that's something that was really, wasn't expected.
Amazing. Awesome. I'm seeing some great feedback in the chat as well. Thank you, everyone. All right, we got to keep this moving. So thank you so much, Team Bigotis. Let's go on to the next team.
Thanks again to that team. Next up, let's hear from the GANs Gang team. I'm excited to present this team of NYU ITP alums, as I'm also a current student in that same program. So Kevin, Paul, and I believe Nick, who isn't here today, are artists and data engineers who are proposing a framework on how to navigate the overwhelming options of unruly and opaque machine learning assisted tools that generate visual outcomes with more nuance and maintain human control in the process. Nick and team, take it away.
Right now. All right. Can you guys all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Cool. So, hi guys. My name is Kevin. Coming from a background of working as a creative and strategist at an ad agency, and also some data analysis work before that. And then with me here is Paul.
Yeah, and thanks for the introduction, Lauren. I come from a background of video game production art, and more recently been doing freelance involving, I guess, a wider berth of applications for the same type of 3D art skill set.
Paul also goes by the moniker Dobu Haishin. And then Nick Boss, our last team member who's not here with us today, he's a data scientist at Rafiq Anadol Studio. And both of us go to NYU ITP, and we're current second-year students there. So the team that we've put together has kind of a wide range of knowledge in being creatives and involving in various 2D and 3D workflows, and also using kind of machine learning tools and a familiarity with some of the data work that goes into how these tools are being put together. So where we are right now is that machine learning tools are becoming more sophisticated, available, and popular for artists and brands to create media. We have deepfakes that allow brands to customize content at very high speeds and low costs. We have GANs, or generative adversarial networks, giving birth to new aesthetics. And companies like Runway ML that have made these tools very democratized for everyone to use. However, the problem of these tools is that most of these results are very imprecise and unruly, and the process is somewhat of a black box and very opaque. Machine learning and AI are permeating into digital artists' toolbox, but there's an opportunity to really develop a framework to use these tools with more nuance and maintain creative control. So what we're kind of setting out to do is essentially effectively leveraging these automated outputs, but maintaining the human control and creative input to create desired visual outcomes that an artist or from a brand art direction standpoint can really kind of take advantage of these tools. The plan of action is to devise a framework, but to prove it out using a very specific kind of use case of augmenting live action video content to connect better with traditional brand art direction teams, and to showcase the diversity of machine learning tools that can be leveraged for this specific process. So we'll play the specific video that we've created for this challenge, and then we'll break it down. that is it. And breaking down the process of the video. So the way we wanted to approach this was get a range of these tools available to artists nowadays, ranging from more obscure and cutting edge research papers like Dane or depth and optical flow, style transfer, to more experimental and niche apps such as Absinthe and Video Enhance AI, to machine learning tools that have permeated into traditional sort of like workflows such as After Effects. So the way that we're proposing the workflow is going from source footage to pre-processing to what we call parallel processing, and then final post-processing. So we'll go through kind of the chronological timeline of some of the processes that we've used to kind of prepare this video. So starting with narrative development, we kind of focused on mostly dreams and imagination for the sort of like storytelling challenge. Started with the shot list, so to plan out what is the story that we're doing and get alignment from the team. And then the shot considerations. So we knew from the experimentations that we've been doing that we wanted to shoot at 24 FPS, a 4K resolution, so we have enough pixels to work with, and then with a steady motion so that the frames don't jump as much. And then we essentially edited the footage and got a rough cut and saved as an image sequence for processing. And then after that, we analyzed and notated the footage with the corresponding sort of processes that we wanted to apply for each segment to make sure that we can start on that in parallel. So each one of these processes take a lot of time to run and a lot of processing power. So we just needed to sort of get aligned on the timeline first before we dive into these. Next up is going into pre-processing. So because a lot of these take a lot of process power, we are downscaling and first, instead of kind of like just feeding it raw 4K image sequences. Another sort of process of it is masking. So in order to gain more control over the process, we're not just feeding the whole entire image in with the same machine learning tool so that the outcome becomes very flat and uncontrollable. We're essentially masking it and sort of feeding different parts. So the background and the foreground or the subject have different sort of processes applied to it for different effects. And then we will talk about some of the machine learning tools that we use in the parallel processing process.
Yeah, so one of the aspects that we leveraged for the style transfer stuff is a component called optical flow, which instead of applying the generative adversarial network interpretation to like single image after single image, it does that, but also kind of leverages this ability to track details of an image over time, so that when the image sequence is put together after the fact, that it retains some of that visual continuity instead of dancing around too much. And on the right here is an example of that kind of RGB output for the object segmentation and some of the depth analysis. We didn't necessarily use that in the way it was intended for our particular short, more so as kind of like an aesthetic hook to indicate like the transference from like the reality to the kind of sequence of dreams that the character is experiencing. And one of the other main ones, I think in particular with the clouds, is a neural network called DANE, which stands for the Depth Aware Interpolation Network. And it effectively takes your existing frame sequence and infers parallax and motion in between to increase smoothly the number of frames for your particular video. But in our case, instead of using a video that had a number of frames, just basically taking visually similar static images and then interpolating between them to achieve an effect that is slightly unrealistic but aesthetically interesting in its own right, to apply in the kind of superimposed in the background of the scene that we had already shot. And Absinthe was another tool we used to kind of lay over the top of our existing footage instead of like using the kind of the GAN modality of kind of changing it. It was basically drawing over a single frame in different layers using a digital drawing tool, and then tracking that frame over the course of the rest of the video sequence, and it follows the motion of the subject matter underneath it. So I guess it's kind of like a two-sided benefit in the sense of being able to stylistically alter the content that you already have, but also increasing the, I guess, pace and efficiency of that kind of production instead of having like a larger team or whatever of people doing like, stop motion or rotoscoping type of workflow from things in the past. And so, yeah, this clip is kind of showing some of those things in combination where you can see the line work from the Epsynth tracking. In the background, it's like the composited and altered cloud morphing sequence from the Dane workflow. And then lastly, this was, I think, stuff that Nick was primarily kind of responsible for, is the leveraging of the style transfer type of stuff using convolutional neural networks, which is taking like a repository of images or a single image. There's multiple ways you can do it, and the network basically analyzes what it perceives to be the style of that and tries to apply it to your endpoint. So there were a couple sequences, and here's a side-by-side where in the center we have a repository of a collection of artistic works by a guy by the name of James Jean, who's a painter, and applied that style from our subject, Chris, our character here on the left, to his face to kind of create that dreamy aesthetic and output. And as I mentioned before, the continuity and like the cohesiveness of the application of that style is done through the optical flow. And then this is kind of an aspect that we leveraged for time considerations, kind of like Kevin had mentioned earlier about parallel processing, and try to like segment out some of these different aspects to the creative workflow using these things for time and I guess the effective segmentation of processing power is that since our original footage is at 4K, we didn't want to necessarily run all of this stuff at that high of a resolution because it would have taken ages with our kind of consumer level like PCs and things. So one way to kind of create an output that's still high quality without necessarily taking so much time is to do it at a lower resolution, like 512, 1024, whatever, composite that together or upscale prior, and then utilizing this program is basically increasing that resolution in a way that's maintains a lot of that detail, so that, and it's faster than just basically doing it up front. And so this is basically some showing and hiding of the layers in the same way that previous clip had done, and in the way that we kind of combined some of those pre-processed inputs and outputs in the parallel processing, and then kind of created the stack of things in After Effects, and utilizing more like traditional compositing tools in an artistic tool set to then achieve the outcome.
And then finally, we're kind of like Paul had mentioned, after going through some of these more experimental sort of technical processes, then we're taking it back into a traditional sort of editing software like After Effects or Premiere to add in grain and some finishing touches to maintain continuity. So the challenge is to say that this is just a specific kind of application that pertains to linear video creation. But other formats such as like live and interactive work will follow a pretty similar process of working with like their constituent tools. But what's important is that the framework itself is to think about, instead of using these tools like a black box and just feeding it something and expecting to get a specific outcome or visual outcome, thinking about breaking that process down of how to pre-process the video, how to use and stack different types of tools together, and then how to apply post-processing to get the amount of control that you want. So next step is, this is only the start in machine learning assisted media creation. Paul had just told me yesterday that Photoshop is now incorporating some of these tools as well. So hopefully this framework can be expanded upon by digital artists and also brand creatives to connect with their creative vision with new technology. This is our contact information. And Thank you so much.
Thank you, team GANs Gang. This is exciting. This is great. We have some great feedback in the chat. If you don't mind dropping in your contact info in the chat feature, that'd be a great way for folks to continue the conversation with you all. All right, let's jump into our final presentation for this session. Zeev and Shirin from Team Wallflower.
Hello.
Hello. All right.
Everyone.
Hi.
I'll just start screen share.
Sounds great.
Hi. I'm Zeev Schneider, and I'm here with my collaborator, Shirin and Len. And thank you for having us. It was great to be a part of this challenge. We're both creative technologists and artists exploring the use of emerging technologies for storytelling. And for this challenge, we created a prototype called Wallflower. And I'll now share a quick teaser. Great. So, we are actually wearing our prototype as we speak. Wallflower is an AR face filter designed to be used during video calls on desktop, and it transforms the participant's appearance in response to their level of participation as measured by speech. We're all spending more time than ever before on video conference calls where we have access to augmented reality face filters. They're little pieces of software that have the potential of being much more than just an instant retouch. And the platform offers an opportunity for storytelling in real time and a performative augmentation of our daily interactions. We see an opportunity here where a lot of brands have been using AR and social media to promote products, to create engagement. And it's an opportunity for brands to meet their audiences where they are, to utilize new technologies and create a personalized experience. But what if a face filter could be like a story that you wear? What if it could be a playful means of communication, maybe a bridge for a loss of words? How can we use data to create an experience that is different for each participant? So these are some of the questions that that guided us in this process. And to answer these questions, we prototyped a face filter that's designed to use in Zoom, Hangouts, all the different video conferencing platforms. It's developed with Lens Studio, Snapchat software for creating AR effects. With a free Lens camera software, it can be used on all the above platforms. And we were interested in measuring presence and participation, which often vary between participants of large group meetings. How do we measure that? Could we look at gaze, distance from the screen? In this case, we're using Lens Studio's face tracking capability to build our own logic for speech detection. And we're measuring the distance between different parts of the lips as an indication of participation. So if the user is speaking or not. And we were drawn to this metaphor of a wallflower and how challenging video calls can be for those with social anxiety. We were also inspired by the camellia, a symbol of Chanel, and a diverse flower that comes in many appearances around the world. And this guided the way we modified the visuals based on the participant's environment. So we're looking at the data about the user's location, and that guides the colors of the flora. And now I'm gonna pass it on to Shirin to talk about the user experience.
Yeah, thanks, Zeev. So I'm Zeev wearing the wallflower, as you mentioned here in the chat as well. And it's Zeev, if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
The experience is a linear. In the linear form is like a 5 minutes, but it's very depend on how you participate, how much you speak, or you decide to stay silent. So it's like shrink and grow, and it starts with like after 30 seconds that you are silent, green leaf will start to appear. Then small flowers will join, and then like a green blush and branches in the background, and at the end, big flower will take over, together with like a white background that kind of like leaves you only with the flora and the user participant eyelashes. We were like as you see, it's all starting to shrink as I'm talking, and we were kind of like curious to create like a experience that is a playful back and forth between shyness and attention. Is it like this kind of experience kind of like encourage you to be more active or to stay quiet, which is more rewarding. There is something about like while you stay quiet, you kind of like seek more attention even with this effect. And we experienced a few challenges, mostly around like designing an AR experience that is like a time base that can be unfold over like a various like meeting durations, and the limitation were also like technical on how we worked around the Lens Studio software, like optimization, inability to access like the same personal data that we thought would exist on Snapchat in the mobile wasn't available on the desktop, like weather, location, things that could be like integrated as well into the behavior of the flora, and how we measure participant, like especially when like there is more to speaking, and how we can maybe integrate that. And then when we decided to focus on speaking, how can we adjust it to different kind of face structures, mouth, and how to create something that is like sustainable and diverse. We think the next step can be like there are a lot of next steps. We can scale the design. We can explore more forms of interaction, like speech to text, like highlight words that are repeating and how them affecting the visuals and the story of this effect. Exploring more data, like we said, like in the environment, the behavior, distance, personality, and explore. So we played with the ML. Capabilities of Snapchat, and how we maybe can integrate more like generative kind of visuals. Yeah, so you are welcome to test it yourself or use it. If you download Snap Camera, you can plug it with the camera to any conference video platform you're using. Thank you to New York Media Lab for inviting us, and Chanel for this challenge. It was fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Team Wallflower. If you don't mind dropping that link into the chat.
Yes.
All right. This concludes our demos.
Yes, thank you to all the teams who presented. Thank you, audience members.